All right, welcome everyone to back to Sports Stream. Today, a really great show. I've got Austin from Vizrt. If you remember, we had a phenomenal show last year, and you can still watch it. All that's still very, very relevant information about using a TriCaster and producing sports and stuff like that. But today's show, we're going to get to some of the other software and features available from Vizrt that really can let you take your sports program to the next level. By the next level, you could do stuff like the big guys do on broadcast, which you're watching, on NFL or, college football game day or, MLB, TNT, TBS, those guys. You're going to be able to put in graphics and other analytics and stuff that's just going to make you go, wow. And I'm so excited about this show. So, Austin, before I get you going, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I think we should play this little video that gives a little tease about all the stuff we're going to talk about today. So let's let everyone watch this video, and then I'll come back to you. So, Austin, let's talk about, we saw a lot of very, very cool tools in there. And you and I got to see each other, and you can see how much I love all this stuff. But go through, we're going to go through some of it in depth, but give us the overview of what, because I think a lot of people know Vizrt as the high-end, graphics company that does this stuff for some of the places I talked about before. Then we've got the TriCasters and what we'll call the new tech family and stuff, but really that's merging in this world of sports and sports production. It is amazing what now, a college or a small, local team or a minor league team can actually do. So I'm going to kick it to you, and I'll just advance the slides for a while.
Yeah. I mean, for everything that is provided through Viz, it puts everything in the same ecosystem. It just makes the flow and functionality so seamless. And then, for any type of creator, operator, producer, everything that's in the same family just makes it so much easier to, put your sports on display. I think with the landscape of sports now, being that, live events are bringing in a lot of eyeballs, it's something where you want to have it look nice. Whether it's starting from, K through 12, going to high school, through college and the professionals, you can have that same look going through all of those platforms with every solution that we have.
And I think it's important. It's not just the same look. It's actually, it's the same feel as the operators too. So you guys have done a really great job. But one of the things I think that is so important is we're producing sports today, and we don't know what people are watching on it. They might be watching it on a big TV. They might be watching it on a huge screen, an LED video wall. They might be watching it on the phone in their pocket or a tablet. There's so many ways people consume sports. And I know, like, my kids will be watching a game on their tablet, my son, another game on his phone, the big game on the TV, which he uses the YouTube thing where he watches 4 NFL games.
Yeah.
And God knows he's updating his fantasy team, and he's, placing bets and parlays and all that crazy stuff. But yeah. I just think it's so important to be able to deliver on these multiple platforms. So talk to us a little bit about how Viz enables that for people.
Yeah, I mean, it's for the multi-platform output, it makes things kind of seamless. So when you're talking about the tablet versus the phone, you'll have score bugs and graphics that need to live in a 16 by 9 or 9 by 16 landscape. to operate that, you don't want to have to say, this is my destination for the phone, this is the destination for a tablet, for a TV. You have one output that goes to those and it adapts to the screen ratio. So with something like Viz Trio or Flowics, to have those graphics be displayed in multiple outputs, but only controlling it from one single location, makes it so much easier to say, all right, I have this one graphic, it's going to look different on all of these different platforms. That's the multi output landscape that we can control. And for operators that come in that may be freelance or someone that is on staff but it's not super tech savvy, it makes it super simple to say, hey, we got to get these graphics on screen, and I want to make sure they look good on every platform for where all the eyeballs are.
That's an awesome feature, and something, if you recall, I think you and I talked about this years ago, about
Yeah,
one of the
long time ago.
challenges was, how do you make graphics that people can read on a phone, but it
Hmm.
also can't be the whole screen when you're watching on, your 4K monitor at home. So we've got this
Exactly. Yeah.
slide going here on the AI and stuff like that. And let's face it,
Mhm.
everyone's doing AI, but you guys have really tapped into using it as a productivity tool with sports
Hmm.
production. So talk about AI a little bit.
So with the AI, it just makes things a little faster within, your production. So in the past, if you wanted to isolate a player, put a little highlight beam on them or a tracker, there was a lot of steps you had to go through to do that. But with AI, identifying the home team, the away team, the referees, the objects on the field or the ice or the court, you can do that all with AI. So identifying where the ball is, how fast that ball is going, things like that with a single click to be able to telestrate and tell your story for a sports replay or during a live event. It makes it so simple. AI has cut a lot of corners in a sense for operators to make quick turnarounds. In the past, if watching a replay, you would just see a replay with just hearing an announcer talking about what's happening. But now that you can showcase it a little easier, a little faster, it brings more to the sporting event we're watching. And I'm a huge sports fan. I've played for many years. I've watched the evolution of sports, and with this, for the back end of creating content and being able to display it with ease, makes things so much more user friendly, and also for the viewers and the fans to watch to you know tell a story showcased with animated graphics on screen. So AI has a big part to do with that.
And let's talk about why Viz is the right choice for people producing sports at all levels. I keep saying that because we can do your local Little League games, we can do your D3 schools, your Big Ten schools, we can do pro
Hmm.
football, we can do NFL, MLB, baseball. It scales to any level. It's just a matter of what you're
Yep.
producing.
Yeah. I mean, everything being in the same ecosystem. And when you talk about the AI components and then you bring in the NDI, you can take every single one of your sources into a central location, which, with the TriCaster, the switcher, every single element or output can be brought in as an input and you can have that displayed. So if you wanted to do a picture in picture, or like we just mentioned with the quad box on YouTube, if you want to have multiple games with different types of branding, all of that can live within the same ecosystem. So you have operators that can control different elements, but from one single platform makes it so much easier to learn, to create and to output what you need to showcase for within your sports.
Very cool, very cool. So
Mm.
let's get into some specific sports solutions that you've got going.
Like that shirt, man. That is awesome. That is awesome. uh, I
Vizrt
mean, for
Sports Solutions.
yeah. I mean, we've within the sports environment in particular, there's a ton that we have access to and what we can use. So when we talk about the live game and studio production, the linear and digital, there's a lot that we're seeing on screen that we may not notice, but there's a lot that keeps eyeballs on these sporting events. Why are they so popular? With the fan engagement is one of the major things that we like to look at. Showcasing displays of if it's a smaller event and there's local venues that want to advertise, bringing those graphics in to have them imposed on a field of play. When you talk about QR codes for fans voting, that type of engagement is something that's huge. That's for the streaming component. But then also when you're at the actual venue, there's sports banners, there's video boards, there's different tags that you want to showcase for the fans that are in person. There's a lot of things that we can do. You can control those all through single systems that are provided by Viz. So there's a lot of ways that you can have fans that are watching a sporting event, but then you can utilize different tools to keep them engaged, during timeouts or commercial breaks when you're in the venue, but also showcasing what you want to do for your streaming platform. If it's going to a destination that's in English, but maybe there's another component that's in Spanish, and you need that certain branding for those viewers that are watching in a different language, all of that can be provided through the Viz solutions.
Yeah, I
Uh,
think I love this graphic you put together for us because there's so many facets to sports. And, I got to be honest, before we started working on this show, I always thought of sports for our customers being, a TriCaster, an instant replay, and some graphics. And when
hmm
I dug into what Viz really offers and doing the research for this show, and that this is now being made available to people who are not tier one broadcasters, but are tier two or
Right.
tier three, bringing this stuff down and available, this is some really magic secret sauce. If you're trying to get
hmm
better fan engagement in the venue or of people watching your shows via they watch them on a stream that's OTT, or maybe it's just a local, on YouTube later live. This
hmm
is really, I think, so important that all these tools are available. And I can't wait to dig more into them. But then we've also got studio production also. So let's talk about that a little bit. And I know this is going to seem a little redundant on these slides, but there's live sports, there's studio, there's a lot of aspects to a sporting
Yeah.
event.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about, the cutaways when they go to the studio, to do highlights or cover other games. All of those things are existing in the same ecosystem, and they're live. You need a way to, be able to manage all of the content that's coming in, being distributed out. And we talk about the studio shows, we're doing breakdowns of, halftime for games. There's the analytics that get brought in. There's the data that gets brought in that can be utilized either for the fans that are watching for stats, or even for your betting components. If you're betting on different lines of individual games, all of this can be showcased and displayed on screen, which makes it great to have, where you don't have to cut away to different destinations or locations for certain types of information. It could all be centralized, for any type of sports production.
Yeah, one of the
So
things
yeah.
I think is interesting though is it doesn't mean that the studio has to be where the game is, because there's that whole
Oh yeah.
concept of remote production. So let's say I'm a college, I can have a studio where I'm producing all the studio stuff, and obviously for home games, but I can also do it for away games because there's so many abilities to bring in
hmm
remote cameras, remote stuff, or remote workflows. I don't want to go too deeply into that, but it's really, I don't want people to think that they have to bring the studio with them or even the truck with them anymore. In today's world of NDI and bridge and all the technology we have, you
Yeah.
studio does not have to be where the game is. The game doesn't have to be where the studio is. And you can have multiple games being run through a single studio as well if you're a league.
Yeah. Yeah, it's basically just sending whatever cameras are at a venue. Those cameras are connected to a network. They can go up to a central hub, and then that from that central hub, you can switch between all of those different those streams or components from all those destinations. So when you're talking about the studio show, the studio can be in Columbus, Ohio, but there's games happening all around the nation. You want to bring all of those sources in, cover those. You could either have one camera from each location, or multiple cameras. Bring those in and have the anchors or announcers report on those games from a central location, or you could do it, remotely. If someone has access or control to a studio, maybe they want to turn their mic on and off or adjust their camera like a PTZ control. That's also feasible. It doesn't all have to be in a central location. So when we're talking about putting trucks on the road, you'll need the trucks to be there, to adjust cameras, set everything up. But from the operational standpoint, that can be dedicated to any location with a network connection, and it makes it super easy and straightforward and streamlined to say, hey, I'm going to hire someone to cover this game. Maybe it's a little more expensive to fly them out, put them in a hotel for a couple days. It's like you could have someone in the comfort of their own home with a green screen behind them,
Uh,
participating in a live broadcast.
So we can do the live broadcast, we got the studio, and we can also do the venue itself to make it more fun when you're at the game to interact. And I think, that's another aspect that I don't think people are realizing is all really being done through the same gear working together. It's not like it used to be you had one set of operators for the venue, another one for the show that was going out, another for the stream. It's all coming together. And I think with Viz, what's really incredible about this is not only does it all come together, but it's really efficient from the standpoint of view of the amount of people you need to run the production. There's a lot of savings and productivity boosts when you go all with the whole Viz model to run the show, because like we said, you're doing the game, you're doing the studio stuff, you're doing the venue stuff, and then this can even be brought down to clubs and leagues as well. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it could be utilized across all of those, and yeah, the efficiency makes it great. So if they're sports, we'll talk about football Sunday. There's usually 11 games going on simultaneously.
Yep.
You have that capacity for that large scale. Then you want to go down, to there's a lot more events happening on the college level and then high school. All of these can be kind of centralized, and it makes it so much easier with the engagement aspect of it, with the multiple displays that you can do if you want to do comparison shots or picture in picture side by side. Everything that's connected within the network makes it so fundamental to utilize a single ecosystem to do all that. But yeah, for every league and team, if you want to take away from or go add on top of the games, you have the post game events. So you have the interviews that can all be captured and displayed in real time within that same ecosystem.
And
so
if you're like
so efficient,
if you're like a local semi-pro, let's say baseball or basketball league, you can actually now set up your own OTT streaming that you can choose to monetize or not. But Viz can be a part of that as well. So talk about how the streaming is such a big part of this. And I know everyone thinks of streaming as, well, when the world went through COVID, everyone had to stream stuff. But streaming is another revenue stream or another way to grow your fan base through, sports, especially not everyone's going to be, let's face it, your high school football team's not going to be the NBC game of the week. I think they're going to come to the NFL instead on Thursday. But Friday Night Lights is still a big thing all over the country. And it's a great way if you've got a high school league or a semi-pro league or what have you, to get your exposure, get your players out there, and maybe get a little extra revenue too. Yeah,
I mean, that's when we talk about the branding. There's events that happen that are, they're happening live, they're being streamed. The overlays, the graphic overlays could be different sponsors that you can utilize for, those eyeballs that are on it. I like to think about, the farm league baseball system. There are players that play that are from Texas, but maybe play in Maine. Families and friends may not want to travel those to watch those games, the one game a week. But when you have the streaming element, you have all of those players that can give their families and friends access to watch those streams. You could add on a little branding for advertisement on those. So you have more eyeballs to see what you can showcase. So, turning on a stream saying, here's the platform where it's going to go. You have the game there. You can watch the game and, enjoy it. But on top of that, you want your score bug, you want your analytics. All of this information is there, it's available, and that can be displayed for the people that are watching the stream. So it enhances so much more of what you can do as a client that's using these services, but also it gives your fans the more engagement and the more enjoyment for them to be able to watch events that are existing in different locations.
And I think one of the things that we've learned in the world of multiple deliveries to OTT to in-venue to a game like that is that they complement each other and build the base. A lot of people used to think these things, if people were watching at home, they weren't coming to the game. They're coming to the game, but really having the OTT helps drive people to the game because it's still fun to be at the games. It allows people who from distance can't be connected. You're absolutely right. I know situations where we've gotten TriCasters into colleges where like a local kid got in who was the big star, let's see, in Long Beach, California. Now he's going to a local, D3 school maybe in Texas or something, but they're getting that exposure and building the fan base. And the next thing you know, the coach has got a pipeline where he's getting all the best kids from Southern California. People are saying, you're in Texas. How are you getting these Southern California kids? And it turns out why, because they're showing the games there and they're showcasing the kids. So it becomes part of recruiting. It comes away, where we know also where we've got a minor league teams where a phenom gets drafted by, let's say, the Mets. And the family wants to watch him go through A, AA, AAA, and stuff like that. And those smaller teams, they're investing in stuff like TriCasters and things like that because they don't have NBC behind them to come to the game. But this kid is going to draw eyeballs. He's going to get interest in that team, and the team's going to build revenues. And you're right, you can put some advertising and stuff like that. So very cool stuff. So now we've gone over like the bigger picture of all the different ways that VizRT makes the entire sports realm, the live sports, the studio, the venues, the OTT, the leagues. Let's jump into the portfolio of products now. And I'm really going to let you take this off because like I said before, I really know the TriCaster and 3Play really well. These new tools, since we produce a studio show, not a sporting event, I've consumed them and watched them, but I really don't have any experience producing them. So I'm going to kick it over to you. And let's start with, this is what I know, single operator switching mode, made easy, a TriCaster, I think the TriCaster is the video mixing, switching, live sports production tool that people aspire to get to. And I think, there's TriCasters a lot of different levels. But, with the new visions, I think you're talking about, having so many inputs for a sporting event. And we all know that, no matter how many cameras you have in an event, the producer wants more. So let's just... a little bit. I don't want to skip over the TriCaster, but I really want to focus on some of the cooler stuff. Instant replay. I think the 3Play is a phenomenal instant replay system that's very easy to use. So talk about 3Play a little bit because that's something we haven't really taken a deep dive into. And why is 3Play such a better instant replay alternative than some other things that are out there?
I personally love the 3Play just for the element of not only the game, but for post-game and, potential for coaching use. In the game, obviously we're watching the game, play happens. You want to showcase that for your stream of people that are watching on a broadcast or stream, but also in the venue. So with the 3Play, you have 8 channels in and 2 channels out. And I like to look at it as one channel out for the in venue, the other channel out for the stream component.
Yep.
Now, when you capture everything on 3Play, it captures everything in real time. So say we have an angle, overhead shot of a player catching a ball. You want to see if they go out of bounds. There's 7 other cameras that you can capitalize on that shot. So when you capture these replays, you show it to the fans like, oh, it's a game-changing moment. We want to have that in slow motion, add the dramatics to it. You have that capability to do in real time. But also with the 3Play, you can capture highlights and put those into chunks, when you're doing your commercial rollout. So when we're watching a sporting event on TV and, before they go to commercial, they roll about 4 or 5 clips in slow motion. That's all captured and that's all replay. To have all of that in a single location to say, hey, I want to play this 5-second clip to bump out. Let's bring this video that we made really quickly into our production. That's how you can have that roll out. And everything is in the system and it's easily labeled. And then, that's for the in-game. And then when you talk about the post-game, every single event that happens in that, we have a catch that happens, we have the player that it happened with, and then the team. All of that's stored in the system. Yep. You can recall that after the game to say how many plays were, a 10-yard catch going out of bounds, and you have that whole list of those plays. How many times did this player this season make a run that's over 20 yards? You have that information stored in the game. So if you want to do a postseason show, recap show, highlights for the post-game events, you have all of that stored in the 3Play. So that's where the system comes in handy, easily to capture everything and then also to navigate where you want to showcase for
you mentioned something very important with 3Play that we've seen that guys are using it for. We've seen guys using multiple cameras for a golf swing. We've seen them working on pitching mechanics, but I've also seen that like in fast-moving sports like hockey and football and soccer, lacrosse, coaches are using it as their game breakdowns as 3Play, as their way to watch the film from multiple angles, and they're training someone on the staff to be able to use it because it's not super technical. Well, now the coach can say, this is where you looked at it, but look, you missed this guy, or your technique was a little off. You should have your hands differently. Let me show you what we have here. They're not just using that in practice. They're using it to look at the whole game where the coaches now can watch, 8 cameras simultaneously to try to focus on helping a certain athlete or a quarterback read a play or something. So many ways it's being used. So I like to think of it as a coaching tool as much as a great way to, instant replays. We all know what they are, but as a coaching tool, I think it's phenomenal because it's not overly complicated to use. It's very easy to train someone on your coaching staff to become your three-play guy for the coaches, not for the game.
Right.
So it's not like I got to get this replay perfect and I got 2 seconds to do it. Where a coach can really take his time and set it up. So he wants to bring in a receiver or someone to point out how he didn't read that or run the route right. You know, it's so cool and useful in that way. And I just think it's a way to make your team better.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I go back to when I was playing in college. It was from 2004 to 2008. So when we had practice, we had an overhead camera that was behind the offensive line. I was on the offensive line, and we had the one shot that we would watch. Coach would put a laser pointer and say, you know, your feet were messed up here, but you held on to this block. You can't see the hands in front because you don't have that camera angle. But now what you can do in practice is if you're capturing from every multiple angle, you can do a zoom in on a particular player within the 3-play and say, all right, here's the clips of today's practice. You want to watch the overhead shot? Like, your feet were great, but we want to get a closer look at where your hands were. Let's go to camera 2, show that same play again in that replay. That's a way that players can watch and, you know, develop their game to make them a lot, you know, a much more productive player. I wouldn't say I was a great player, but I could have learned more if I had multiple angles to watch myself and help myself develop. But yeah, I mean, it's a great tool just for, you know, to showcase in live events, but also, yes, for the practice portion of it, for players getting better and to analyze different schemes and different looks. If you have multiple angles to do that and bring that into the coaching room and for your players to get better, it's definitely a super helpful tool.
And guys, Austin's being humbled. One of the reasons I wear this shirt is my kids went to Ohio State, but he played at Penn State. So it's our own little inside joke we always have every time we get on a show together. But let's talk about graphics a little bit now. You know, we love Flowics. We use Flowics ourselves. Flowics, you can make graphics that look like, I'll put it up with anything you're watching on national television, game of the week, or what have you. I mean, it's just a great product. And you can do it in the venue, but the graphics operator could be anywhere in the world feeding those graphics, correct?
Yeah, anywhere with an internet connection. There can be changes that are made on a laptop, a tablet. If someone's on a cell phone, you can edit the graphics in those ways. Flowics is probably one of the coolest tools that has been integrated within Viz, specifically for sports. Like here, you're looking at 4 different sporting events, different types of displays and outlooks. And this is not only for a stream, it's also what you can do for in stadium. So we're talking about the fan engagement aspect, polls, if you want to do competitions between, rivalry games. You have all of those, that real-time data and analytics you can bring in, but also display it in different formats. So if you want to have the same graphic that's in a venue, but also for the people that are watching on a stream, you have one platform where you just have to control the data. And not only manual input data, you can bring in, sports data connectors from like Sports Radar if you want to have real-time updates. Apply that to a ticker or to a score bug or to, on the top right here with the L bar. You have different ways that you can showcase the elements or information that you want to put on screen, and it makes it super simple to say, hey, we want to showcase this graphic. This person doesn't have to be in the truck or the control room. They can be on the laptop elsewhere, monitoring the game and saying, hey, create this graphic. Let's showcase the information we want to show for that play.
Yeah, and the data integration is really amazing. And there's so many different ways that you get your sports data in real time. But if you go to the Viz site, it's got a list of all the stuff and just about everything that's being used. I'm not going to say all, but the popular stuff is all able to integrate directly into Viz. And if you've got something that you're using that doesn't, well, drop the folks at Viz a line. Who knows? It could be on the table. They could be telling you that, well, this plugin works with that, even though it's for this other guy. So very cool. You can bring in scoreboards, live out of town feeds, everything like that. So great job on Flowics. Let's jump into analysis and analytics, because I know one of the things that I have really fallen in love with watching baseball is when they're showing that trajectory shot of the home run and the miles per hour off the bat. And this is stuff when I was a kid. I just knew it was a fastball, and the faster the pitch, the faster it left the park, right? But seeing those data is really cool. And I love also when they track the receiver for, that deep palm, and you see him breaking, you watch what he's doing. So just go into some of this, because the Libero is, I think it's kind of like a secret weapon that can now be available to people at a level where you don't have to be NBC or, the NFL to get these kind of analytics. Talk about that, because it's so cool.
Yeah, this is another cool thing. There's a lot that you can tell within a sports story, just showing a game, having announcers and anchors speak about it, but to put it on display of what these athletes are actually doing is pretty phenomenal. And as you said, tracking a ball or tracking players, it's what we as a person that played video games a lot growing up, there's different things in the game and elements that are like, oh, that's really cool, the heat map or the distance of a ball going. When that's brought into real time, it's showing how phenomenal these players can be. The tracking and the distance that they have to run. It's saying, why this athlete has worked so hard to perfect this certain maneuver or mechanism within their game. This is how you can extract that information and showcase it to the viewers watching. So it adds a little bit more to what we're seeing. With when you're talking about a heat map, if a player gets to that spot, odds are that they may make that shot. When you take these elements and bring it in, it brings more of a fan engagement, or just like, the understanding and respect for the game that's happening when you showcase all of these. And being that AI is a major component here, this is how you can just, lock in on a certain player or a play that happened, and then throw on your annotations on top of that, which, makes it really cool to put that on full display. And then also when you add in, going back to the Flowics with the betting the betting portion of it, when you have these analytics to say, hey, if this player gets to this spot, odds are they're going to make this shot. You throw down a little a little bit of change on that and say, hey, we have a little more data that we can reference and use to keep us more engaged with the game, if you're going that route of,
And
throwing in
one of the
those bets.
things I love is that ability to break down the play where you can show the formation before the play started. And you can say, if this guy had been over here, he never would have made that
Hmm.
player. Watch how he fakes him, but he's really going this way. That's how, he was
Yeah.
able to cover and fake out the quarterback and make the interception, what have you. And that was something that, I've loved forever. And I never thought I would be offering my customers the chance to, do something like
Hmm.
that. This product does that and a whole lot more. So, you got to learn what you're doing. It's not something that,
Hmm.
you're going to pick up in 10 seconds, but it is usable. It's really fun to use. Once you start
Yeah.
using it, I've talked to guys who do it. They're like, you go crazy with it. But I just had no idea that this whole suite was coming down with everything. It's not like you're only getting the arrows or something. It's
Right.
really the whole analysis suite, and it's available to everyone who wants it from Viz. It's not something just for the networks anymore.
Right.
Customer success and training, I think this is a real important thing that people don't realize, the organization that, Viz has. We have you and Jeremy Morris and guys who come on the show and talk about stuff, but Viz is really built around people and people
Yeah.
helping people. So let's talk about this, because some of the stuff we've introduced in this show, I think people are like, yeah, I'd love to be able to do that, but
Hmm.
how do I
Yeah.
do it? Talk about what Viz has, because that's real important. And I think it's not all free. You can pay for it as well, what you need, but Viz really gets you off and running. They're really going to get you
Hmm.
not just the gear, but the skills you need to be able to produce the show. Talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, so I'm in customer success now. So the clients that I work with, it's really awesome to see everything that we have out in the field and how it's being utilized. But we do have a full team that support every type of use case. 24/7 support. Obviously, with sports, on this topic, sports are happening 24/7. Anywhere around the globe. So there's a lot of uses there, and helpful people that are a part of our team. Um, what we provide within Viz University, different courses and tutorials, there's a lot that you can pick up and learn. For me, I think that I kind of came into this role that I'm in with a lot of knowledge, sports in the back end, but also to bring those tools and that knowledge to how these analytics can be used and displayed. All of this information is provided through Viz, to help utilize if you're working on a certain sport or a certain type of event, how you can approach it. We have all of that information that's shared, that's in documentation, and then also with a great crew and a great team to help support any type of use case. So being that everything is available, it's an easy way to get started on your own, prior to having any of these solutions. But we do offer a ton of information, ton of different use cases as well, that makes it super helpful to have all the access that you may need.
And I think that's real important because a lot of times there's more to the gear than just the gear. And I really want to compliment you guys, all the guys over at Viz, for really pre-sales, post-sale, during the sale. You're really helpful on where that is. You know, a lot of coaches want to get this in. Sometimes it's driven by the coach, sometimes it's driven by the school. But one of the things that I think is important with this also is that if you're a school looking at these Viz packages, I want you to look at it not just to produce your show, but to have students learn how to be sports producers and making stuff like that. That's why, you know, we've kidded about it a lot, but I'd love to see like a bundle of this stuff that you guys put together that maybe included some courses and training, because I think the real sell point of this is not just that it does all this stuff, but let's create a community, a world of Viz operators who now have the ability to, you know, learn in school, be at college or high school, build their skill set, grow more and more, and then take it to, you know, the public level. Because when you look at what's happening in broadcast television and media, what's growing is sports and events. I'm sure it's being fueled by gambling. We've kidded about it a few times, but it doesn't matter. The money is there. It's always been there. The Super Bowl, you name it. Sports are, I think every sport in the U.S. is having some of their best years ever. Even hockey, you know, is now expanding their salary cap, which is based on total revenues. You know, good things are happening in sports. There's budgets out there. And I think if you've got a budget to produce better sports, one of the things you want to do is also if you're students, if you're at college, get the kids learning this, build a curriculum around it, have these kids come out of college ready to go right to a NBC or an ABC or a TNT, a TBS show, be part of that and produce it, because there's definitely right now a lot more productions than there are people who can do them. It's a shortage in our industry. You got to admit it. We don't have as many trained professionals as we'd like who are using these new tools. They know the old way to do stuff. But we need people who know how to use these new tools, which is so cool. So, Austin, great show. Thank you, as always, for being on it. We appreciate it. You always did a great job. I can't let you go with giving a little OH for the fans, but you are?
Penn State, man.
There you go, buddy. Thank you, man. Thank you. Hopefully we're 1-2 and we meet, maybe play for the championship. That would be great, because we certainly showed that Manning kid isn't ready yet.
We'll be watching that game together.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for being on the show. Great show, Sports Stream. I want to remind everyone that the stuff we talked about, if you give us a call, we'll put you in touch with local, we have a local network of local installers, system integrators, VARs who can help you get into this, whatever that level is. So don't worry that you don't have your IT and your tech and your video department isn't ready for this. We can get you people who can come in, put the stuff in, get you with Viz training, get everything wired, done from the ground up, regardless of what that is. We have people who put stuff in stadiums. We have people who just work with high schools, so give us a call if you liked anything from this show. We'll be happy to talk about and point you to the right person. So Austin, thank you very much. Great show. Sports Stream, tons of content still to come.